Welcome back to the Dare to Rest podcast and this very special fairy tale episode. There are truths that the mind cannot hold, but that the heart remembers. And sometimes the most profound way to touch those truths is through story. So, in today's episode, I am sharing a fairy tale I wrote myself. Not just for entertainment, but as a mirror, a mystical little map for your own journey of becoming. Throughout the human evolution, humans have been telling stories because stories bypass the logic, the overthinking, the noise. Stories speak in symbols. They stir the soul and they unlock wisdom that's been waiting in the quiet corners of your being. So today I'm going to invite you to really settle in, cozy up, and as you tune into this episode, open your heart and let this fairy tale take you somewhere deeper than words alone can reach. So let's start by taking a collective deep inhale, opening your mouth and sighing it out. Letting your shoulders drop and landing. And let's dive in. Once upon a time, there was a princess, Princess Nora. Nora was a good princess. She was kind, she was diligent, and very helpful. She was always the one who helped and did so much for the world. And Nora was so proud of doing things on her own, on being able to do things on her own. It made sense because her mother was, after all, a wolf. And she had taught Nora that there was an honor in being self-reliant. And maybe as we now know Nora's mother, we should introduce her father too. Her father was a mighty warrior, a strong bear. And the shield he always carried on his back wasn't the only shield he possessed. There was also a shield inside of him, around his heart. And Nora had learned a lot from growing up with a dad who carried this internal shield, though she wouldn't understand this until much later in life. Nora also had four wonderful friends who she sometimes asked for help with all the things that she wanted to do in the world. She was really honest. It felt a little bit like a burden and a huge responsibility to always help other people, to save them, and to always put them first. But she did it because she was a good princess. Truthfully, Nora was a little bit tired of asking her friends for assistance in the help that she always provided to others. Because her friends, they had different priorities than her. And Nora found it hard to accept that. Mary, a mouse friend of Nora, she preferred to play, she preferred to tease and to have fun and be silly. And Nora sometimes thought in her quiet moments that Mary was unserious. Nora's second friend is Heather, a hippo who just preferred to chill in the swamp. And Nora had more than once thought that Heather was really, really lazy with all her laid back chilling. Like, can she just get her ass off the swamp? Nora's third friend is Lila, a lioness who always clearly expressed what she wanted. She had firm boundaries, and she was so clear on who and how much she was willing to contribute. If Nora had to describe Lila in one word, it would probably be bossy. Nora's fourth and final friend is Fran, a flamingo who was always dressed up and preferred to spend her life dancing, showing off, and shaking her sexy hips. We're talking big time colors here, feathers, tiaras, a lot. And Nora often felt that Fran showed off and that she was a little too much. So even though they were all friends of Nora, they were very different. And Nora often felt alone, even when she was surrounded by other people, both her friends and the people she always helped. It was hard to really put it into words, but inside it often felt empty. No one in her world talked about this, so she thought she was the only one who felt it. And she was afraid that if she shared it with anyone, they would think that she was crazy, a little cuckoo. So she hid her feelings, just like her father unspokenly had shown her. So Nora straightened her shoulders, she clenched her teeth, and she kept being a good princess who was diligent and helpful and of service. She always kept herself busy, helping, fixing, improving things, because it felt so lovely when other people were happy because of what she did. And that praise and appreciation, that made the emptiness she felt inside momentarily go away. So it felt like the right thing to do. One day, after Nora had spent so much energy helping everyone around her, being so tired, so burned out, she decided to go down to the water to be alone with her thoughts and feelings. She was actually really annoyed with her friends that day because no one had bothered to help her when she asked. And she thought about how wonderful it would be if they were just more like her, willing to help. If only they would do things her way, everything would be so much easier. If Nora had been able to put it into words, she would have told us that in this moment, the feelings inside of her were resentment, frustration, and a sense of unfairness. But all she could express was this annoyance with her friends. But even that she kept to herself to not create a fuss. As Nora sat by the water, everything around her was completely still. The only sound she could hear was the beating of her own heart. Tum tum, tum tum. And as she was listening to her heart, she let out a deep sigh. She had never really understood the purpose of silence. In that emptiness, the silence was deafening. But today, for some unknown reason, she stayed there with it. The silence, the emptiness. As Nora sat by the water, looking into the water, she saw the reflection of the nature around her, the clear, pure water, and the sun flirting with the ripples of the waves. Even though there was so much beauty, light, and magic around her, the only thing she noticed in the reflection of the water was the sadness in her own eyes and that emptiness that she felt inside. And sitting there by the lake, looking at her own reflection, let's leave Nora there, deeply buried in her own thoughts and her own reflection. Because right now, I want you, my dear listener, to pause this podcast for a minute or two to be in silence with yourself and maybe reflect on part one of this fairy tale and then come back to hear the rest. Nora sat by the lake for a long time, so long that the sun slowly began to set. And as it did, the reflection in the water changed. The tiny diamonds on the surface of the water no longer just sparkled in the water. She could now see them in her own eyes as well. And suddenly, so suddenly, she gasped, as if a jolt of 1,000 butterflies fluttered through her. She felt an electricity around her heart, as if her throat opened up, and it felt like, for the first time, that she could breathe all the way down to her toes, into every cell of her body. Because in that moment, right there, Nora realized the magic also lived in her. Just by being present in the world, by choosing to see it. In that moment, Nora discovered her own light, that she was worthy, that she was magical, and it came just by being present for it. And as if by a spell, her friends appeared. The hippo, Heather, was the first. From her chillness in the swamp, Heather screamed, "Hey, Nora! You want to chill with me in the water for a while?" And Nora, who had silently held grudges against Heather the whole day, hell, maybe even the past week, or even their entire friendship, surprised herself as she said yes and ran into the water. Feeling the lukewarm water around her body, being completely surrounded by water, Nora decided to copy Heather and surrender her entire back into the water, her head faced towards the sunsetting sky. And she genuinely enjoyed being carried by the water and felt a relaxing sensation spread throughout her body. It was both a very exciting and an unfamiliar sensation to Nora. And while Heather and Nora were floating around in the water, Mary the mouse sailed out to them on a small leaf, and as the prankster she always was, she started a water fight. And for once, rather than getting annoyed, Nora decided to join in. She allowed herself to have fun with her friends. It tickled in her stomach, and her cheeks hurt from laughing so hard as they were having fun, splashing water around. She didn't even remember the last time she had laughed so much. Up on the shore, as the three of them were splashing water around, laughing, the lioness Lila appeared, her unbothered paws moving slowly in the sand, one in front of the other. And when Nora saw her, she realized that she was actually done with the water fight. So instead of staying in it to squeeze out a little bit more fun, to not upset her friends, she decided to trust her energy. And she said out loud, for the first time in her life, what she wanted. She said, "I've had enough. It was fun, and now I'm going back on land." And as Heather and Mary stayed in the water, continuously splashing around, Noah swam back to shore. And with every stroke back to land, choosing her own path, doing what she wanted, she felt stronger and braver than she ever had before. Coming back onto the land, the flamingo Fran had joined them. And as always, she was wearing her party dress, super flashy, and totally ready to dance. Nora looked at her, still smiling. And because she still had that taste of courage on her tongue, she pulled off a couple of feathers from Fran. And with a slight smile and a nod of her head, Nora silently invited Fran to dance. So they did. Fran never said no to a dance. So they danced around, they laughed while they sang Fran's favorite song, and Nora felt wild and free. Feelings she didn't realize that she had been craving for. They were entirely new feelings, surging through Nora's body. Relaxed, fun, courageous, wild, and free? Who was she? The feelings felt unfamiliar and familiar all at once. What she truly felt was alive. After some more dancing, Nora sat on the shore with her friends, watching the sunset. And in that moment, she realized there wasn't just magic in her, but in all her friends. And they could learn so much from each other. And she saw that when she acknowledged her own magic, it became so much easier to see the magic in everyone else. So, with the biggest smile on her face, Nora lay down on the ground, surrounded by her friends, fully connected to Mama Nature. She allowed that moment to sink in. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in her life, she could hear the stars laughing in the sky. So there we have it, the story about Princess Nora. I would absolutely love it if you'd share with me how this fairy tale lands for you. Thank you for tuning in to this fairy tale version of the Dare to Rest podcast. I hope you have and create the most amazing day.